All right, it's October 2022. Let's talk about the real estate market in Tampa, Florida right now. I'm Sam, and thanks for coming by the channel. Here we make videos about what it's like to live, move, and invest in Tampa, Florida. If that's something you want to follow along with, don't forget to subscribe down below. Also, we are a team of realtors here in the Tampa market, so if you are interested in buying or selling a home here in the area, or you have questions about any of that process, any of it, please give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone number and email are right there on the screen and in the description down below. But today I want to share some of my own story, and that's really how this whole channel started, was me telling my story about moving to the Tampa area. Now I actually find myself in a place where I'd like to move across the Tampa area, and interest rates have us thinking differently about it. And interest rates go up and down all the time. That's not a completely uncommon thing, but like many of you, I bought a house when interest rates were really, really low, and it's really difficult to think about selling that at such a low interest rate and then buying at double the interest rate right now. So we bought our house in September of 2020 for around $300,000 at 2.75% interest. And our payment is right around $1,800 a month right now, including taxes and insurance. We also have to carry flood insurance on our property, which is a big pain in the ass. But that house that we paid about $300,000 for 2 years ago is worth about $430,000 to $450,000 right now if we were to sell it. But the issue is, if we were to buy another place, say we were to buy a place for $500,000 and upgrade a little bit, our interest rate would be around 6% on a fixed 30-year mortgage. And that would make our payment increase more than $1,000. So the payment on that place, even without flood insurance, would be around $2,900. So from $1,800 to $2,900, that's a huge increase at once. Although a lot of people relocate to the Tampa area, most of the buying and selling is just people moving around the area. People doing this kind of swap and upgrade like I'm thinking about doing. And overall, buyers have more leverage now. With all of our buyers, we are able to request a lot more seller concessions. We're able to make sure things are a lot more in order on the property. People are okay with appraisal contingencies and big requests after inspections nowadays, which is great for buyers. It gives buyers a lot more leverage, and it feels like buyers have a little bit more power than they had during the pandemic. The reality is some markets in the US are kind of crashing right now, where there's a lot of inventory and not a lot of buyers. And a big reason that there's not a lot of buyers is because of the sudden increase in interest rates. You know, when interest rates go up and down gradually, it doesn't affect it as much as it has right now. But just because some markets are kind of crashing doesn't mean all markets will. And this growth in Tampa and in Florida isn't really new because of the pandemic. Maybe it got a little focused because of the pandemic, but Florida has been growing year after year well before all of this happened. And I know I say that over and over again, and I know I'm a realtor and I have biases in the midst of all this, but Tampa Growth is not new, and Tampa Growth is not going away. But recently I ran into a situation that I think is going to start happening more, and this might drive prices down a little bit. There are a lot of real estate investors in this market. A lot of them have long-term rentals and short-term rentals. So a short-term rental is like an Airbnb, VRBO kind of vacation home. And maybe they use it sometimes and then they rent it out the rest of the time. But when an investor buys a property like this that they're primarily going to rent out, they require cash flow. So they're not going to buy it unless they can make money on it. If it's going to cost them money every month, they're likely not going to buy it unless it's a property they're going to use a lot and they're just acknowledging, hey, it's going to cost me some money. But that's not the norm. I've been talking to the seller that has a property in St. Petersburg, a 4-bedroom house on 6th Avenue North, which is a great spot, just a few blocks from Central Avenue, where all the good food is in St. Petersburg. This place is being used as an Airbnb right now, and he listed it on the MLS for $599 just like a month ago. It didn't sell. He didn't get one offer. And I know why. Because if someone were to buy that property, their payment for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance would be over $3,000. So this seller sent me his documents from his management company that's helping him do everything as the Airbnb, and it's only bringing in $2,200 in gross income a month. And it's renting out about 20 days a month, and it's a pretty good rate, about $300 a night. But for someone to buy it, an investor to buy it, they would really only be willing to pay about $400,000 at today's interest rate. That's a huge decrease. That's really back down to mid 2020 prices. Now, if investors start selling properties at discounts like this, comps are going to come down, prices will have to come down. But a lot of these investors are just going to hold on to these properties. Mark doesn't have to sell that property. It makes him money every month. Yeah, he'd like to not have to think about it. He'd rather have the cash. But this kind of scenario could drive prices down a little bit. And I think it will take quite a while because it will actually take sellers selling at lower prices to actually bring other prices down. And not everybody has to sell. You know, a lot of mortgages right now have really low interest rates, and people don't really want to move away from that. And I find myself in the same boat. I completely understand not wanting to sell my house and move across town and buy something more expensive, even if I could afford it. Well, because when I look at that extra expense for the year, you know, maybe I refinance that property in 2 years and I get the rate back down. But I've, spent another, $20,000 out of pocket just to live in there 2 years earlier, and that's not worth it to many people. And I'm actually having to convince my wife that it's not worth it for us. What do you think? Do you think that this is all going to drive prices down? I've also heard some rumors that rates may come back down. You know, if we go into a deeper recession, the Fed might lower rates to keep us from really going into a depression. What do you think's gonna happen? I'd love to hear from you. And if you're dreaming about living in this area right now or in the future, we would love to hear from you. Phone number and email is right there on the screen. You can call, text, email anytime. Thanks for coming by.